Emma Reeves had a knack for invisibility. Not the supernatural kind, just the ability to blend into backgrounds, to speak so softly that people leaned forward to catch her words, then promptly forgot them. It was a talent cultivated from necessity rather than desire. The Moretti Gallery's annual benefit gala wasn't designed for people like her. Crystal chandeliers dripped from soaring ceilings. The air smelled of money, expensive perfumes, aged champagne, freshly polished silver. Waiters glided between clusters of guests, offering delicacies on silver trays that cost more than her. Monthly salary. Remember, you're just here to help coordinate the children's choir, Liam reminded her, squeezing her arm. Her colleague was the only reason she'd survived 3 months as the elementary school's new music teacher. I know my place, Emma whispered, straightening her one good dress, navy blue, modest, purchased on clearance, but still the most expensive thing she owned. That's not what I meant. Liam sighed. Just don't let them intimidate you. These people fund our program, but they're not better than you. But they certainly thought they were. Director Lawrence Keller loomed near the stage, surrounded by board members. At 58, he commanded every room with practiced authority. Silver temples framed calculating eyes that evaluated everyone's worth within seconds. Ah, Miss Rivers, was it? Keller's gaze skimmed over her as she approached. Reeves, sir, Emma Reeves. We met at the school last week during your visit. Of course. He didn't remember. The children will perform after my speech. Make sure they're ready and quiet. Until then. Emma nodded, backing away as Keller turned to a woman dripping in diamonds. Vivienne! The Guggenheim exhibition was divine, wasn't it? I was telling Alessandro. Voices faded as Emma retreated to where 23rd graders fidgeted in their performance clothes. They represented the program Keller's foundation funded, an arts initiative for underserved schools. Tonight they would sing to convince wealthy patrons to write more checks. Miss Reeves, Zoe tugged her sleeve. Are we going to perform soon? My feet hurt. Almost. Emma knelt, straightening the child's collar. Remember our breathing exercises. As she led the children through quiet warm-ups, she felt someone watching. Julian Reed leaned against a nearby column, champagne flute dangling from elegant fingers. The gallery's celebrated young composer in residence observed her with curious intensity. Emma turned away. Men like Julian, prodigies with prestigious conservatory educations and family connections, belonged to a different world. Her small-town community college degree and self-taught skills were nothing in comparison. Everybody's ready for the children now, an event coordinator announced, appearing beside Emma. Mr. Keller is wrapping up his speech. Emma nodded, guiding her students toward the stage. As they passed Julian, he straightened. Brave, having children perform at an event like this, he commented. Most people would stick to professional musicians. They've practiced very hard, Emma replied, unsure if he was complimenting or criticizing her. I'm sure they have. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Best of luck. The performance went well. The children sang their 2 simple songs with endearing enthusiasm. Applause followed. The polite, measured, kind rich people offered out of obligation, rather than genuine appreciation. Emma guided the children back to their designated waiting area. Relief washed over her. Just 30 more minutes, then she could take them to their parents and disappear. Your little group was charming, a woman commented as Emma passed. So quaint. Thank you. Emma forced a smile. They worked hard. I can tell, the woman said to her companion rather than Emma. It's sweet, really, what they can accomplish with such limited resources. Heat crept up Emma's neck, but she kept walking. These moments were familiar, subtle dismissals, backhanded compliments. She'd faced them her entire life. Later, as guests mingled during intermission, Keller's voice boomed through the gallery. Julian, there you are. Everyone's been asking when you'll grace us with your talent. Julian smiled modestly as a small crowd gathered. I hadn't planned on performing tonight, Lawrence. Nonsense. We've just heard children sing. Surely we deserve something of quality now. Emma, helping a child with a juice box nearby, froze. At least play something from your new composition, Keller insisted. The one that's being premiered next month. Julian relented with practiced reluctance. Perhaps just a movement. Guests applauded as Julian moved to the grand piano positioned near the gallery's center. Emma found herself unable to move, watching. As he settled onto the bench, rolled his shoulders and began to play. The music was technically impressive, complex harmonies and flashy runs that showcased Julian's training. Yet something was missing. The notes were perfect but empty, like expensive wrapping around a hollow box. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Liam whispered, appearing beside her. Emma nodded automatically, but her mind was elsewhere. In the small space behind, her ribs, a familiar ache bloomed, the pain of recognizing what music could be versus what it was. Julian finished with a flourish. The crowd erupted in applause. He stood, bowing deeply. "Magnificent," Keller boomed. "This is what true artistry sounds like." Emma turned away, focusing on gathering juice boxes and napkins. "Miss Reeves," Julian's voice startled her. He'd approached while she was distracted. "Your students performed admirably." "Thank you." She kept her eyes on her task. "Have you been teaching long?" 3 months at this school. 5 years overall." "Interesting." His tone suggested it was anything but. "No formal music training, I presume?" Emma stiffened. "I have a degree in elementary education with a music emphasis." "From?" "Millfield Community College." "Ah." The single syllable contained volumes of judgment. "Well, for someone with your background, you've done remarkably well. The children were enthusiastic." "They're children. Enthusiasm is the point." Emma met his gaze directly for the first time. Julian studied her, surprised by her sudden directness. "Of course. Well, good evening, Miss Reeves." As he walked away, Emma exhaled slowly. This was why she kept to herself. Every interaction with people like Julian reminded her of boundaries she couldn't cross, worlds she didn't belong in. The second incident occurred an hour later. Most children had been collected by their parents, but Emma stayed behind with 5 students whose families worked late shifts. They sat in a corner of the gallery's atrium, playing quiet games while Emma watched the clock. "Miss Reeves!" Keller's voice carried across the marble floor. He approached with several board members. "Since you're still here, perhaps your remaining students could entertain our special donors with another song." It wasn't a request. Emma swallowed her objection. "The children are tired, Mr. Keller. They've been here for hours." "Nonsense. One song won't hurt them." He turned to the children. "You want to sing again, don't you?" The children, trained to please adults, nodded hesitantly. "See, they're eager." Keller smiled tightly. "The Donovan family is considering a substantial donation. We shouldn't waste the opportunity," Emma gathered the children, whispering encouragement as she led them to the center of the atrium. More guests gathered, forming a semicircle of expectant faces. "What shall we sing?" Zoe whispered. "Let's do This Little Light," Emma suggested, knowing it was their strongest piece. The children began, voices small in the cavernous space. Emma guided them gently, trying to help them find their confidence. They finished to scattered applause. "Charming," Vivian Donovan said, the same woman from earlier. "Though perhaps with proper direction, they could sound less provincial." "Indeed," another board member agreed. "Miss Reeves, do you have any actual performance experience yourself?" Before Emma could answer, Julian appeared at Keller's side. "I found the children quite moving, actually." "You're too kind," Keller laughed. "But we all know the difference between a trained musician and, well," he gestured vaguely toward Emma. "Do we?" Julian raised an eyebrow. "I think Miss Reeves has done admirably with limited resources." Of course," Keller backpedaled. "Slightly. Still, one wonders what these children might accomplish with true professional guidance. Perhaps we could demonstrate the difference," Vivian suggested, eyes glittering with malice disguised as benevolence. "Julian, why don't you show them how it's done? Play something simple these children might aspire to." Julian hesitated, looking uncomfortable. "I don't think nonsense. It would be educational." Keller was already guiding Julian toward the piano. "Miss Reeves, bring the children closer so they can observe a master at work." Emma's cheeks burned as she led her tired students to the piano. The board members followed, champagne glasses in hand, amused by the impromptu lesson. Julian played a simplified version of Bach, explaining elements of technique between phrases. The children watched with wide eyes, while Emma stood rigid beside them, acutely aware of the spectacle being made, not just of her students, but of her inadequacy as their teacher. "Now," Keller said when Julian finished, "this is what proper musical education produces. No offense to Miss Reeves's efforts, but the difference is rather obvious." Laughter rippled through the small crowd. Not cruel exactly, but knowing, the laughter of people secure in their superiority. Emma didn't speak. She focused on breathing evenly, on not showing how deeply the humiliation cut. She'd spent her life being told she wasn't enough. Not talented enough, not educated enough, not connected enough. Usually she accepted it quietly. But when she looked at her students' confused faces, something shifted inside her. "Thank you for the demonstration, Mr. Reed," she said calmly. "Children, it's time for us to go." "One moment," Vivian interrupted. "Since we're comparing approaches, wouldn't it be fair to hear Miss Reeves perform as well? So the children can understand the spectrum of skill levels." Silence fell. Emma's heart thundered against her ribs. "I don't think that's necessary," Julian interjected, looking uncomfortable. No, I insist," Vivian pressed. "Unless, of course, Miss Reeves doesn't play at all." 20 expectant faces turned toward Emma. Her students watched with confused loyalty. The adults waited for her humiliation with barely concealed anticipation. Emma should have declined. Should have gathered her students and retreated with what little dignity remained. That's what the Emma Reeves they thought they knew would do. Instead, she smoothed her modest dress and said, "I'll play." The third challenge came at the worst possible moment. As Emma approached the piano, Keller intercepted her path. "While this has all very amusing," he said loudly, "we should be mindful of our guest's time. Perhaps something very brief, Miss Reeves." "Of course." Emma's voice sounded distant to her own ears, and nothing too ambitious. "Perhaps Twinkle, Twinkle." "Keller," suggested, generating another ripple of laughter. Emma paused, one hand on the piano. "Actually, I thought I might play something the children and I have been studying. Debussy's Clair de Lune." Eyebrows raised throughout the room. Julian straightened, suddenly alert. "That seems rather advanced," Keller said, smile tightening. "Perhaps something more appropriate to your level." "I'm comfortable with Debussy." Emma's voice remained quiet but had taken on an unfamiliar edge. "Let her try, Lawrence," Vivian said, eyes gleaming with anticipation. "I'm curious to see how far she gets before stumbling." Emma settled at the piano, adjusting the bench Julian had left too far back. Her hands hovered over the keys. In the hush that followed, doubt crept in. It had been so long since she'd played for anyone besides her students. Years of hiding, her true ability of making herself small to avoid drawing attention. But as she looked at her students' hopeful faces, something shifted. She closed her eyes and began to play. The first notes of Clair de Lune floated through the gallery. Not the simplified version she taught children, but the full composition, played with a delicacy that made the room hold its breath. Emma's fingers moved with quiet assurance, drawing the melody as if painting with sound. Where Julian's playing had been technically perfect but emotionally distant, Emma's interpretation breathed. Each phrase rose and fell like a living thing. The music spoke of moonlight on water, of solitude and beauty, of things seen and unseen. No one moved, no one spoke. The gallery's perfect acoustics carried every nuance to the farthest corners. When Emma reached the piece's climax, her body swayed slightly, her face transformed by complete absorption in the moment. As the final notes faded, Emma opened her eyes. The room remained silent, suspended in collective surprise. Then Zoe began to clap, followed quickly by the other children. Adults joined slowly, expressions ranging from confusion to disbelief. Julian stared at her, lips parted in genuine shock. Keller's face had drained of color. That was... Vivian Donovan searched for words. Unexpected. "Where did you study?" an older board member demanded. Emma stood from the bench. "I started with Mrs. Abernathy at the community center when I was 6. Then mostly taught myself." "Impossible," someone murmured. Play something else, Julian challenged, voice tight. Mozart, perhaps? Sonata in C major? Emma hesitated, then nodded. She returned to the bench and launched into Mozart without sheet. Music. Her technique wasn't flawless. Occasional flourishes revealed her self-taught nature, but the music lived in her fingers. When she finished, Julian stepped forward. Chopin, Nocturne in E-flat major. The request felt like a test, but Emma complied, moving seamlessly into Chopin's haunting melody. This time she didn't watch her audience. She disappeared into the music, letting it flow through her as it had since childhood, when playing old pianos in church basements was her only escape. By the time she finished, the atmosphere in the gallery had transformed entirely. Guests who had dismissed her now watched with newfound respect. Several had moved closer, abandoning conversations to witness the revelation unfolding before them. "How is this possible?" Keller whispered to no one in particular. "Why are you teaching third-grade music if you can play like that?" Emma stood, smoothing her dress again. "Because I love teaching children, and because no conservatory would accept a scholarship application from a janitor's daughter without formal training, no matter how well she played." Her honesty fell like a stone in still water. Ripples of discomfort spread through the gathered elite. "Miss Reeves is amazing," Zoe declared into the awkward silence, rushing to hug her teacher. The other children followed, surrounding Emma with proud exclamations. Emma's cheeks flushed crimson. Her hands trembled slightly as she acknowledged her students' excitement. Years of hiding her ability, of accepting dismissal as her due, had not prepared her for this moment of recognition. "Why didn't you tell anyone?" Liam asked, pushing through the crowd to reach her. "I did, on my application." She shrugged. "No one asked about it during my interview." Julian stood frozen, champagne forgotten in his hand. The composer's expression cycled through disbelief, reassessment, and finally, reluctant admiration. Vivian Donovan recovered first. "Well, this changes everything about our little arts program, doesn't it, Lawrence?" Keller nodded, professional mask reassembling. "Indeed, Miss Reeves, we should discuss your role. Perhaps something more commensurate with your abilities." "My role is teaching children," Emma replied, voice gaining strength. "That's what I want to do. But with talent like yours, I chose education, Mr. Keller. It wasn't my fallback option." As the gallery erupted in conversation, Emma guided her wide-eyed students toward the exit. Their parents would be waiting, and she'd promised to have them home by 9. The revelations, the shock, the sudden attention, none of it changed her. "Responsibilities, Miss Reeves." Julian caught up to her near the door. "Wait, please." Emma paused, keeping her students close. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly, away from the crowd's ears. "I made assumptions that were entirely wrong. Many people do. Why hide such extraordinary talent?" Emma considered the question. "I wasn't hiding it. People just didn't bother to see it." Julian's expression revealed the impact of her words. "The foundation is hosting a benefit concert next month. We need a second pianist. Would you consider—" "Mr. Reed," Emma interrupted gently. "Thank you, but my focus is my students. At least think about it." He pressed a business card into her hand. "You deserve to be heard." Emma pocketed the card without promising anything. As she led her students outside to waiting parents, explanations flowing about their eventful evening, she felt strangely weightless. Years of invisibility had become so comfortable that recognition felt almost painful, like blood rushing back into a limb that had fallen asleep. That night, Emma sat at her apartment's small upright piano. She'd purchased it second-hand when she moved to the city, spending 2 months' savings for the battered instrument. Her fingers moved across the keys without conscious direction, finding melodies she'd composed but never shared. Sleep eluded her. Each time she closed her eyes, she saw their faces, first dismissive, then astonished. The memory wasn't entirely satisfying. Proving people wrong had never been her goal. She'd simply wanted to be seen accurately, to be valued for what she actually was rather than what they assumed. Monday morning arrived with unexpected changes. Emma entered the school to find Liam waiting with Principal Carter. "There you are," Carter said, unusually animated. "You've caused quite a stir. The Moretti Foundation called first thing. They want to triple the music program's funding, and they specifically mentioned you." "Me?" Emma set down her bag. "Lawrence Keller himself sang your praises. Said we've been underutilizing your talents." Emma's stomach tightened. "My job is teaching children, not performing for donors." "No one's suggesting otherwise," Carter assured her. "But they want to expand your role. Master classes for talented students, maybe some adult education workshops, all with a significant pay increase." The offer was tempting. Emma's tiny apartment and second-hand clothes weren't exactly comfortable, yet suspicion lingered. "Why now? Because they found out I can play Debussy." Carter exchanged glances with Liam. "Does it matter? This is an opportunity, Emma." Perhaps it was, but it came wrapped in uncomfortable truths about value and perception that Emma couldn't ignore. "I'll consider it," she finally said. "But my classroom comes first." Throughout the day, Emma's routine continued unchanged. Singing with kindergartners, teaching third graders recorder basics, helping fifth graders with simple compositions. Yet something had shifted internally. Each time she demonstrated a concept at the piano, she stopped censoring her ability, stopped playing down her skill to avoid standing out. The children noticed immediately. "Miss Reeves, that was beautiful," her kindergartner exclaimed when she played a simple folk song without simplifying her accompaniment. "Do it again," others begged. Their uncomplicated appreciation healed something Emma hadn't realized was wounded. Their eyes held no calculation, no reassessment of her worth based on discovered talent. They simply loved the music. That afternoon, Julian Reed appeared at her classroom door during her planning period. "Your principal let me in," he explained, looking out of place among colorful bulletin boards and tiny chairs. "Have you considered my offer?" Emma set aside her lesson plans. "I have. I'm not sure performing is the right direction for me." "Because you don't think you're good enough?" Julian challenged. "You are. Different from conservatory training, yes, but your interpretation of Debussy was—" He paused, searching for words. "It was honest in a way mine never is." The admission surprised her. "You're a celebrated composer. I'm a technically proficient musician from the right family who knows the right people." Julian leaned against a desk. "You play from somewhere else entirely. I want to learn from that. I want others to hear it." Emma considered his words. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A collaboration. I'm premiering a piece next month that was originally written for 2 pianos. Play with me." The offer was unexpected. Not charity, not a token position, but a genuine artistic collaboration. Still, Emma hesitated. "Hear me out," Julian continued. "One performance. If you hate it, walk away. But don't refuse because you think you don't belong in that world. You proved Saturday night that you do." "On my terms," Emma stipulated. "No makeovers, no backstory about discovering a diamond in the rough. Just 2 musicians playing together." Julian nodded. "Your terms." 6 months later, Emma stood backstage at Lincoln Center, listening to thunderous applause following her 3rd public performance. The collaboration with Julian had evolved beyond one concert into something neither had anticipated, a musical partnership that challenged them both. She still taught elementary school music 4 days a week. The Moretti Foundation had indeed tripled her program's funding, allowing her to reach more children with better resources. But Fridays and occasional weekends now belonged to her own musical development. Julian appeared beside her, concert attire slightly rumpled after their intense performance. "Ready for the reception?" he asked. "The Berlin Philharmonic's conductor wants to meet you." Emma straightened her simple black dress, not designer, but no longer from clearance racks either. "One condition. We discuss the outreach program first." Julian smiled. "Always the teacher." "Always," Emma agreed. "That's who I am." Together they returned to the stage for another bow, equals in a partnership neither had imagined possible 6 months earlier. As applause washed over them, Emma caught sight of her students in the front rows, given complimentary tickets to watch their teacher perform. Their faces shone with pride and possibility. In that moment, Emma understood that her talent hadn't been hidden at all. It had been waiting for her to recognize its true purpose, not just to play music, but to open doors for others that had once been closed to her. Not everyone sees the value in what's before them. The truly precious things aren't always wrapped in glittering packages or announced with fanfare. Sometimes they're quietly waiting in overlooked places, teaching third graders to play recorders or sitting at second-hand pianos in the dark. The world's greatest mistake is judging worth by appearance, and its greatest joy is discovering how wonderfully wrong those judgments can be.